securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA and SIPC. Cornerstone Wealth Advisor Group is a separate entity from LPL Financial. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. During this segment, we may discuss specific investments. These discussions are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for anyone listening to the show. Please consult a qualified legal, tax, or financial professional prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.
Well, I hope your day is going good today, and I want to talk to you today about a radio listener question. We do a radio show at Cornerstone Wealth Advisor Group on WSVA Saturday mornings from 7:05 to 8 a.m. And here's the listener question. I want to retire December the 31st, 2023. What do I need to do? Well, that's a great question. Well, first off, I hope you have a whole lot of money in your account. But it's not just the ability to retire based upon what's in your account. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing you want to do, if you want to retire this year, and hopefully you already have one of these in place, is you want to look at your budget. You want to ask yourself, what is it that I need to live on in retirement? Hopefully, you won't need quite as much in retirement as you did when you were working. You're not going to be eating out as much. You're not going to be driving your car as much. And hopefully your budget's going to be a little bit less. But listen, most people, a lot of people, too many people don't even know what their budget is. So sit down. If you're married, sit down with your spouse and let's look at your budget of what your budget's going to be. Food, electricity, phone bill, cell phone bill, car insurance, house insurance. Hopefully you don't have a house payment. That's one of the smartest things you can do is to have a paid-for house before you retire. But the first item on your checklist of can I retire at the end of this year is do a budget. Then we want to look at what are your sources of income. If you're in your 50s and you've saved well, remember you can't take Social Security till you're 62. And if you're in your 60s and you're looking at retirement, you want to look at Social Security. And you want to look at what's the smartest decision you can make on how to take your Social Security. Do you want to take it wait until your full retirement age at 67? Remember, that's the normal benefit. Anything you do in Social Security before the age of 67 means you're taking less money for the rest of your life. And if you're retiring after 67, or if you're taking Social Security afterwards, every year you wait after 67, you get an 8% increase, which is a pretty good deal. So you want to look at your sources of income. You want to look at what's Social Security going to pay. If you're married, do both husband and wife take Social Security, or does one take it and the other delay? And then you want to add up all your money in your 401k account or your IRA, and you want to look at what's a reasonable withdrawal rate in retirement so that you get the income you need, but you don't take so much money out that you're going to run out of money. And let me just say this. The accepted withdrawal rate in retirement is actually 4%. So if you had $600,000 saved away in your 401k, 4% withdrawal is going to generate $24,000 a year, $2,000 a month. Probably take home is going to be somewhere around $1,600, $1,700 a month. So you look at your sources of income. After you look at your budget, you look at your sources of income, what Social Security going to provide, what is my retirement funds going to generate. Now, the next thing you want to ask yourself is, if you're before age 65, what's going to be your cost of health insurance? Well, when you're 65, you can go on Medicare. Your cost of insurance is not going to be that big of a deal. But believe you me, if you're 62, 63, 64, your health insurance is going to be maybe the determining factor in your ability to retire. There is a great alternative today. It's called the Affordable Care Act. Some people refer to it as Obamacare. And one of the great things, and we talk to people every day, the issue of health insurance is the biggest important factor in deciding whether you can retire. And there are insurance agents who deal with the Affordable Care Act. In this area, in the Shenandoah Valley, we talk to Blue Ridge Insurance Services. And what's interesting is maybe your insurance would cost $800 a month, but if your income is, let's say, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you might be able to get a subsidy to bring that cost down to $300 a month, $400 a month, maybe as much as $500. But before the subsidy, it's not uncommon to see insurance for an individual at $800 to $1,000 a month. So you want to be sure that in your budget, you've accounted for health care and health insurance. So what else is important? Taxes. You want to be sure that you take out enough taxes to live on. So on the one end, at the beginning, you want to be sure your budget is realistic. In retirement, you want to be sure that all of your income needs or all of your income sources, you've been able to check those boxes, and you take out a reasonable amount. You want to be sure that you've taken care of your health insurance. I think that's a real big, and then you want to be sure that you deduct enough in taxes. You don't want to owe the IRS or the state of Virginia more money in taxes. So if a person is wanting to retire this year, we could probably tell you in a half an hour whether this is possible. And but you want to start, if you're 2 years away, 3 years away, you want to start thinking, what is my budget now and what will it be? Oh, here's one last thing. So what about your debt? If you still owe on your house, it may be difficult. It'd be great to retire with no mortgage. So that's one area that you want to be sure that you're debt-free. If you have a car payment, you want to try to retire that car payment before you retire. If you have credit card debt, pay that credit card debt off. The average credit card debt in America is over 20% today. And where can you invest money that you could earn 20%? You can't. So pay off your credit card, and that's just like if you save 20% interest, it's like making 20% interest. There is one last thing. Do you have an emergency fund? You might ask, well, what's an emergency fund? So emergency fund is if the roof on the house leaks and you have to replace your roof at $12,000, or you lose a tooth and you have to get an implant at $5,000, or the engine in the car blows up. Just think about this. If you're 65 years old and you retire, you're likely to live 25 to 30 more years, and some things are going to go wrong in that next 25 to 30 years. They're called emergencies. Our best advice to people, when you're working, we're always told, if you have a job, you want to have an emergency fund, which is 6 months of your take-home pay. But when you retire, you want to think in terms of not 6 months of take-home pay. You want to think in terms of a minimum of $50,000, depending on your financial situation, maybe as much as $100,000. Do you realize this? The average person's going to pay over $200,000 in health care costs in retirement. And that could be deductibles, it could be co-pays, it could be things that insurance doesn't cover. For example, if you had to get 6 new teeth implants, it's like $4,000 or $5,000 per. So believe you me, that there's going to be expenses in retirement that you have not thought of. So you want to have a checklist. And maybe this issue of can I retire at the end of this year might be a good idea to go get the counsel of a financial advisor. That's what we do at Cornerstone Wealth Advisors. We help people check those boxes to see, is it realistic? The last thing you want to do, and I would also say this about your income, you want to start off in retirement with a good level of extra money that you may not think you need. In other words, if your income's $4,000 a month and your expenses are $3,500 a month, that would be a good start. You don't want to ever retire with an income of $4,000 or $5,000 a month and your expenses are almost as much as your income, because you're going to have inflation's going to cause your cost of living to go up. A lot of people dream of retirement, and many people are forced to retirement because of physical capabilities or challenges physically. But this is one of the most important financial decisions you'll ever make, and you want to be sure, and I like to create a level of a margin of safety. I want to overestimate my expenses and underestimate my income so that I have a pad. Now, if you have questions or if you need help, give our office a call, 540-942-1703. Andrew Kester, Jeff Airy, or myself would be glad to help you. And again, this is something we can do in about a half an hour. We could determine, is this possible? And I think you want it, if you're thinking about retirement, if you're thinking the next 12 to 18 months, get in to see someone, whether it's us or another advisor. And with that, I hope your day is fantastic.